Hi, and welcome to Modern Animism Radio. This is Laura Giles, your host and co-founder of Pan Society. I've got some feedback here about sovereignty that helps me to see a problem. So here's what's going on. We have a lot of information on the blog, podcast, and YouTube channel about sovereignty, which just means acting as a free individual, taking responsibility for what's yours, and choosing your own path in life. So we've covered that lots of times. And the question that I have leads me to understand that some of you aren't sure who you are, and you can't be yourself if you don't know yourself. So my suggestion for practicing modern animism is that you do things in a particular order so that you have a strong foundation. That's know yourself, love yourself, be yourself, and share yourself, which is, of course, connecting. When you do that, there's a sweet spot in the middle. That's oneness. And you don't have to do anything to get there. It just happens. Anyway, today what we're going to do is talk about the first step of that whole process, and know yourself. First, let's give gratitude to our first ancestors, the elements. And from time to time, I pause to explain why. And gratitude is a way of seeing what's good in life, acknowledging it so that it continues to show up. And the elements are in everything. They're the building blocks of everything. The ancestors are the building blocks for humans. Well, not just humans, plants, everything, yeah. So when we say, thanks, I see you, I appreciate you, it opens the door to that relationship and helps us to keep that love and support flowing. So it taps into the creative energy that is all of us. It's a way of manifesting, really. Thank you. Acknowledging. To me, that's what manifesting is all about. So I acknowledge the element of earth and ask that you bring us safety, stability, and security, so that the things we desire can take shape, find form in the material world. I give gratitude to the earth for the food that you supply and the home where we live. I acknowledge the element of air and ask that you bring us wisdom, creativity, and intelligence to discern when something is right for us or not. I give gratitude to the air for providing us with oxygen that we breathe, which is so important now that we have these fires all over the world, and it's harder for some people in those areas to breathe. Acknowledge the element of fire to help us stir our passions in positive connecting ways and give us the will to see our ideas through. I acknowledge the element of water and give thanks for keeping us flowing in the rhythm of life. I give thanks to water for the life-giving properties that it brings to all creatures. And I ask for rain for those areas that are dealing with fires right now. I give gratitude to the loving, helping ancestors for all the support that you provide for us that we see and don't see. Thank you to our listeners for listening, sharing, and liking us on social media. It helps us to get the word out about modern animism. And I'd like to thank everyone who has given donations. If our show moves or inspires you and you want to help keep us on the air, you can donate at our website at pansociety.net. There's a donation button at the bottom of the page, and this is really important because we're a volunteer-run, listener-supported station, and our donations are way down since the beginning of the year. And every dollar goes directly to continuing our mission. So it's super important and very, very much appreciated. So who are you? You know, if you don't know, why don't you know? A lot of times I will ask people questions and they say, I don't know. Do you want chocolate or vanilla? I don't know. It seems like a really easy thing to answer, right? But there's actually a reason why a lot of people don't know how to answer simple questions like, what's your favorite movie? Do you want Italian or Chinese? And it's because of dysfunction in the family. So this is really common in families where there's addiction, abuse, those kinds of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be that. It could be something that's less stigmatized. It could be things like just being a latchkey kid and just being left alone a lot, or having a lot of yelling in the house, helicopter parenting, that kind of stuff. That's harmful to the child too. And when that happens, then a way of dealing with that can just be of saying, I don't know. Being in that space of not having to make decisions, having all your decisions made for you, things like that, so that you avoid getting attention, avoid creating conflict. This is usually the middle child or the third-born child, but it could be anybody. And the kind of internal message that this child gets is that they're not allowed to need or want anything, or maybe they think that they need or want too much. So the way of everything that we do is a coping skill, even if it looks like crazy and like harmful, like drinking. Drinking is a coping skill, believe it or not. Overeating is a coping skill. Having angry outbursts is a coping skill. And this coping skill is a way of, so being a lost child is a way of easing the suffering in the family. So not take up too much space, don't be seen, don't be in the way. It's the one who's invisible. And it's the one who is basically hiding in plain sight. And the easiest way to do that is just to not have an opinion. You don't see me. You don't see me because I don't stand out in any way. And, you know, I don't need anything kind of thing. And when you make a habit out of that, then you can be overlooked. You can do it so well that you don't even know what you think. That may or may not be the case for you if you find yourself saying, I don't know who I am, because I think most of us go through a phase where you don't know who you are. It's like, or we don't know who we are. It's like when you're little, you are who your parents project you to be. Oh, you're a good girl, you do this, you do that. And as you grow up, your role is to differentiate from your parents and decide, yes, I like that, I don't like that. I am this, I am not that. And if you don't do that well or successfully, if your parents are too controlling and don't let you have that freedom or ability to just look out and see what your options are, then you might not have ever had that happen. So that's another way that you can be like, ugh, I don't know who I am. Or wake up and you see that you're somebody, then you're like, who is this person? So if that's you, if you don't know how to express sovereignty because your boundaries just aren't clear enough as far as what is my identity and what is not my identity, then there's some ways that you can start to figure that out. One of the ones that I really like and use a lot in my counseling and coaching practice is Myers-Briggs. Some people like it, some people don't. It's a really easy way of putting somebody in a box so that we have a place to start. Doesn't mean you have to stay there, but it gives us a foundation to start from. So there's 16 Myers-Briggs types, and it's really easy to figure it out, I think. So the first kind of hurdle is to decide if you're introverted or extroverted. Most people know that. Extroverts are outgoing, active, they like to be social, they are energized by the outer world, and they get recharged by being with other people. Introverts tend to be quiet, but not always. There's people who say, I'm an introverted extrovert, I'm an extroverted introvert. Introverts are kind of labeled as quiet and reflective, but they might not be. They could be, I'm an introvert. Most people don't know that. I would think most people would say, you're not quiet. If left to myself, I would prefer to be. I don't need to talk. So don't get hung up on that part. So introverts generally are quiet, but maybe not. They're reflective and prefer relating one-on-one. They get energized by being alone, so they can be overstimulated easily by people and lots of crowds or noises or things like that. And they're interested in the depth of experience, whereas extroverts are interested in the breadth of experiences. So those are some of the differences. Hopefully you know whether you're an introvert or you're an extrovert. The next piece of Myers-Briggs is S or N, so that's for sensing or intuitive. And sensors rely on information obtained directly through their five senses. That's why they're called sensors. They're practical, down-to-earth types. They live in the present, and they're interested more in what's at hand more than the future. So they're kind of grounded people. Intuitives obtain information through their sixth sense. So through hunches and insights and inspiration. So it may not be something that they can put their finger on. Probably isn't. They're interested in possibilities and use imagination and vision. And they like doing things in new ways. And they work in bursts of energies. They're big picture people versus detailed people. That's another way that you can tell N's versus S's. So you probably have a sense already of whether you're an N or S. The next one is thinking or feeling. And thinkers, this can hang up people too. Because of anyway, let me not muddy the waters. Thinkers tend to be logical and use analysis to make choices. They value principles, laws, procedures, rules, stuff like that. They tend to be impersonal, objective, and critical. Where feelers are more like, how does this feel? They they want things to be harmonious or supportive, empathic. They love to have praise, and they're sensitive to criticism. So one's more objective and one's more feeler. Like if it feels good, then maybe it's technically wrong, but the feeler's going to go with, I want this to feel good, versus the thinker's going to go with, I'm going to do what the book says versus how it feels, or what's objectively right or true versus how it feels. So judges should be thinkers versus feelers. Law should be impartial. So actually the next one is J or a P. That's where the judging comes in, and perceivers. And this kind of it should be a different title, because people think of judges as being judgmental, but that's not what it means. It's structured and efficient, planned, organized. They like to make lists and follow them, push for decisions quickly in order to have closure. So that's not necessarily judging. I don't like that word. It's confusing. Perceivers are adaptable, flexible, spontaneous. They want to keep their options open, and they tend to be more indecisive because of that keeping their options open thing. So they want to be sure, examine all the options, take in more information, so they tend to think more slowly. So if you know your Myers-Briggs type, then you might feel more comfortable just rolling with that. So if you're an introvert and you're like, okay, well, I do this because I'm an introvert, it can give you some peace in making choices and doing the things that you want to do. Another thing that I really like is the Enneagram. And so the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram, you can just take them online. They're free. Just put in free Myers-Briggs test or free Enneagram test. I would take more than one because they're not equally valid. And if you get consistent results, then you'll know, okay, this is me. This sounds like me. But the Enneagram the Myers-Briggs has 16 different types. And Myers-Briggs can change because it's based on the way that you think. Enneagram, there's 9 different types, and this one doesn't become stable until you're about 25 because the brain's still changing. And then once it's set, it's supposed to be set for life. You will notice, so there's variations like anything. All Pisces don't look alike. All Libras don't look alike. There's variations in each number. You have positives and negatives to every energy. So some might be on the high side of it, some might be in the middle, some might be in the low. But the good thing about the Enneagram, thing I like about it a lot, is if you know what the high, middle, low looks like, then you have a target fit. So if one of the downsides to being a certain number is like stubbornness or procrastination, then okay, this is a tendency that I can get into, and there are ways around it. That's how I would use it. It's just kind of to let you know what box you're in. So with Enneagram, your number is fixed. It is what it is. But as you grow, you can grow into the whole pie. It's like there's 9 pieces of the pie. This is the one that I gravitate to. So if the pie is made up of flour, sugar, eggs, and other stuff, then I have more flour than anything else. You have more sugar. Someone else has more eggs. It's like that. But we're all the whole pie. And as you become more functional, then you just become the more pie, or the whole pie. It's not like I just become more floury. Okay? So if you're a number 1, the thing that motivates you is a sense of justice, morality, and what's right. Number 2s are motivated by relationships. They need to be loved and valued. 3s want to be productive, succeed, and avoid failure. 4s are the artists and the creatives of the group, and they want to be understood. They want to feel. They want to know or explore the meaning of life and avoid being ordinary. 5s are the librarians of the group. They like books more than people, and they want to know and understand things to be self-sufficient and to avoid looking foolish. 6s are all about security. They are the ones that are most likely to have a trauma background. And they are motivated by avoiding danger, and they might run from it. They might confront it, and you can see this in the same person. So this one is a little bit hard to identify because they can have different faces, and the face can change based on the situation. 7s, like adventure, enjoyment, avoid suffering and pain. They can be superficial. They avoid depth because if you go too deep, then there's always going to be some suffering and pain, just because life is like that, you know. 8s tend to be self-reliant, very strong people, advocates for the underdog. They want to avoid feeling weak or dependent. And 9s are peace lovers. They are mediators, and they want to avoid conflict. So there's a lot of overlap in these pieces of pie, but if you look at where do I go under pressure, that's where you can see these numbers coming out. Because, you know, who doesn't want fun and enjoyment? But under pressure, is that where I'm going to go, hey, let's go party, dude? You know, not for me. Not for me. Okay, so another way that you can check out, you know, just kind of figure out what is in my box, is to do some numerology. Numerology has a lot of different numbers. I would go with the life path one to be just to start, and there are 9 of those as well. So if you know numerology, that's going to help in a lot of different areas of your life. So I would at least get a passing familiarity with it. So if your life path number is a 1, you're probably a leader, independent, your executive abilities are strong, you're determined, courageous, things like that. But you can also be impulsive, dominating, not the best ego. Your ego could be out of control. So number 2 so these go along with the Enneagram too, if you'll notice there's overlap because of the numerology. It works really well. So number 2 values cooperation, adaptability, they're considerate of others. So 2 is a relationship number. They tend to be diplomatic, and they could be shy, self-conscious, and can be prone to depression. So number 3, if your life path is 3, then you're self-expressive in many ways, like verbal in particular. You're inspiring, you have a keen imagination, artistic gifts, that kind of thing. But your energy could be scattered, you could be prone to exaggeration, tons of unfinished projects, and a lack of direction. So everything has a high and a low. 4s could be interested in order, value, struggle against limits. They're very practical people. So this one on the Enneagram does not parallel. The 4 doesn't, because the 4 is the artist in the Enneagram, and this is not very artistic. This is more like management, the organization, that kind of thing. And 4s can have a lack of imagination, get caught up in detail, and be stubborn. It can be slow and serious. 5 is the number of change. So they're quick thinking, versatile, ever-changing, action-oriented, curious, exploring. Those sound really positive, right? The downside of a 5 is they're restless, edgy temperament, dissatisfied, too many hasty decisions, impatience, that kind of stuff. With the 6, you get somebody who's responsible, nurturing, community-oriented, balanced, humanitarian. So this is Aquarius energy. Unselfish, they love home and domestic affairs, and they're helpful. But they can also be stubborn, obstinate, and dominating of their family and friends and meddling. If your life path is a 7, you might be skilled with analysis and research, intelligent seeker of knowledge, love of solitude, peace, perfectionistic, charming, that kind of thing. You may also have hidden motives and suspicions, overly reserved, isolated, inflexible, that kind of stuff. With life path 8, you have executive character and abilities, political skills, expert handling of power and authority, working for a cause, like a politician. On the downside, you could be a workaholic, overly ambitious, lacking humanitarian instincts, and impatient with people. So materialistic. The life path is a 9. 9 is the end. It's the you're bringing everything together into a conclusion, and this also has that humanitarian aspect to it because it's wholeness. It's giving, selfless, creative expression, artistic and writing talents. And the downside of that is you might love yourself a little too much. You could be possessive, moody, just attention-seeking, that kind of stuff. So there's way, way, way more to all of these things than just a little overview that I'm giving you. But it's just to give you a taste of the ways that you can find out information about who you are. And you probably will gravitate towards one more than the other, and that's why I'm giving you some options so you don't have to go to one and be like, oh, this is not for me, this is not me at all, I don't like it. So check out the other ones. And another one that I think probably most of us already know is astrology. And most people know their sun sign. That's the day that you were born. Where was the sun on the day that you were born? But be sure to check out your moon. So the sun is some people call your true face. Your inner you, your best self that you might not show to people. And then your rising is the face that you show to people. This is like your mask, which may be the same as your true face. And not necessarily that you hide it, it's just, I don't know. There's different reasons why your first face might be different than your true face. And then your moon is going to show you what your heart wants. So your sun is what you want. Your moon is what you need. It's like, yeah, your heart, your love, and then your rising is kind of your mask. So I would look at all of those because they come into play at different times. You know, under stress, it could be that your moon is more in control because if it's a relationship issue or something that you want, if it's something like business related, your rising might be more important because you're not putting your true face out there and you're not putting your heart out there. So that's how I would use that. You can get a free natal chart online practically anywhere. Just put in free natal chart and you'll put in your birth date, time, and place, and then you'll get your sun, moon, rising, and way, way, way more. Astrology is way more than sun, moon, and rising. We probably should do a show on that. I don't think, if we have done one, it was a long, long, long time ago. So it's probably due. But it's really, really not complicated, but there's a lot to it, and I don't want to give it less than it's due by going into it in a sloppy way. So I would just say look it up. In addition to that, one of the real important things in deciding who am I is looking at your values. That's why we talk about values. I did a whole podcast on hospitality, for example. That's a value. I think I did one on honesty as a path to animism because it's a value. And here at Pan Society, we don't have rules. Lots of people will live by rules. Don't do this, don't do that. But there's going to be times when the rules don't apply. If you live by values, then you have leeway for those exceptions. It's not black and white. So I think most of us believe that we don't murder and we don't lie, right? It's just the nice thing to do, and it hurts us when we do that. But can you think about a time when you do murder? Every time you eat, you murder. Life needs death to continue. Something dies. And even if you are vegetarian, you're killing plants. So you're not excluded from this. Everything eats something. When you're breathing in air, you're transforming that air into something else. When you exhale, everything transforms. So if we're looking at it that way, you know, we're killing. And if somebody comes into my house at 3 o'clock in the morning and they're not supposed to be here, I have a choice. If you're not supposed to be in my house at 3 o'clock in the morning, then I'm assuming you're up to no good. I have a choice. Am I going to hurt you? Hopefully I don't kill you, but am I going to hurt you, or am I allowed to hurt me or someone else in my house that I love? That's an exception. Now, some of you are going to say, well, you're just going to have to kill me. I get that. I used to be that person. I would just not go there for any reason at all. I'm a different person now. I will kill you. You might be like, oh, my God, I can't believe she just said that. Everybody's got to make that choice for yourself. You know, when it comes down to you or somebody else, maybe you can't. And I'm not judging anybody for making whatever choice you make, but I'm just saying we have to make a choice. The rules don't always, they're not all black and white. And if you think about it this way, don't lie. I hate lying. I don't like lying at all, but I get it. So let's say that you, as a rule, people don't, I'm going to say people because I don't want to say you. I don't want to say me. I'm not trying to put that on anybody. People don't lie, and people have a situation at work where they lie. Well, why do you do that? Well, it's probably because, like I said, a values conflict, because I want to keep my job, and I don't want to tell whatever this story is because it will put my job in jeopardy. That's a situation where the rules may not apply. Now, so what's at the root of this? What's at the root of it is safety. I want to keep my job because that's how I make my money. Now, if I were a person who I feel really confident in my ability to make money and feel confident in my ability to get a different job or talk my way out of this or explain confident in whatever way, so if that fear is gone, then I'm not going to lie. It's that simple. So the more skills that you have, the more flexibility you have, the more confidence you have, the more resources you have, the less times that your values are going to come into conflict. Doesn't mean it's never going to happen, because stuff happens. Life happens. We're always coming up against something that we've never seen before, and we have to make choices. So the more you grow, the fewer conflicts you're going to have. So if you don't have a lot of confidence, if you don't have a lot of skills and resources, I would strongly, strongly suggest that as you get to know who you are, then work on creating strengths. Everything has a high and low side. Everything can be used in lots of different ways. If you move to the high side, you're going to be more confident. You're going to be more capable. That's why I talk about archetypes. It's the same thing. High and low side of this. You know, the mother energy is just energy. It can be nurturing, which is good, or it can be smothering, which is not great. It's the same energy. It's how do you express it. So, it's important to know who you are. Your life's gift to life. Without you shining in your greatness, you cheat yourself and the rest of creation. And we all need to bring our gifts into the world and shine. So maybe you, if you're a lost child, maybe you became lost to survive, but now it's time to find yourself. So look inside, and don't let other people tell you how to be you, or let other people tell you who you are by how they respond to you. If you see somebody responding to you in a certain way, and you look in that mirror and be like, whoa, what are you reflecting back to me? That is not me. Then that's a clue that you're sending out something, or they're perceiving something, it might not be you, that maybe needs to be challenged. To stand in your power, you know, direct that path towards what you think it is. If people treat you like you're a clown and you're just like, no, I've been acting like a clown because I don't know how to do this, then learn how to do whatever that thing is. Or, you know, we all have coping skills just to survive in the world, but I want you to do more than survive. I want you to thrive, and that starts with you knowing who you are, stepping up, speaking out, being seen. And it's okay to have crazy opinions. I have crazy opinions. It doesn't stop me from being on here, and you can judge me, or you can listen to me, you can tune me out. But we're all in the process of becoming. My crazy opinions today, I might be like, oh, my God, I can't believe I ever said that. You know, it's okay. And when you hear that kind of stuff, if you give other people that kind of grace, then it gives them permission to be who they are. And you can't relate to people if you don't ever get to see who they are, for real. And that's kind of been a theme around here lately. I've been seeing that a lot. Not necessarily in me. That's why I said I'm seeing it. Other people are telling me that happened, and I can't even believe I don't even know that person, or I don't even know myself. So it's good to look at this periodically and say, you know, who am I? Because life is always changing, and if we don't check in with ourselves by journaling, by moon circling, by having some sort of practice to check in, like what is going on with me, then you might not even know yourself. So it might not even be a thing, a lost child. It's just like, geez, where did my life go? I just gave it away and I changed and I didn't even know what was happening. So who am I is a really good question to ask. I appreciate the conversation that stimulated this podcast. Keep sending your questions in. We want to hear from you. I'd like to help however I can. And even if it doesn't help, you can be like, well, that wasn't it, and it takes you closer to what is. So thank you all for joining us for this edition of Pan Society Radio. I'm so grateful for you all being here and tuning in. And I will see you next week. Ciao.